I am here tonight on behalf of the Connecticut Yacht Club to announce that the second annual Dick Richards Prize for Outstanding Poetry, formerly known as the Silver Dick, sometimes the Big Double D Dipper, is now accepting submissions. Now, we are interested in any and all material from poets writing in English as a first, second, third. Of course, we prefer first language speakers, but if you do happen to be born with a ridiculous out-of-place accent like I have, which in Connecticut is classified as a speech impediment, well, I think you'll find us to be pretty accepting. I'm also pleased to announce that this year's contest will be judged once again by the Yacht Club's very own poet-in-residence, Mr. Dick Richards himself, y'all. Mr. Richards, of course, is the author of 8 collections of poetry. Count them, 8 poetry collections. He's the man who brought us such distinguished, unforgettable titles as, let me see here, Spring is for Sissies, 2005, Something Tried to Wither, Something Died in Winter. Yes, that was a classic. It was printed in 2009 there. Had to wait a while for that one, didn't we? Well worth it indeed, well worth it indeed. And finally now, Mr. Richards' most highly acclaimed work to date, hailed by literary pugnates far and wide as the singular publishing event of the century. The soccer moms need poetry to fall in love too. Yes, I see some of you out there now don't recognize that title. You liked it, didn't you? Well, I don't blame you. Now, as for the prizes, in addition to receiving a customary stipend of $150, that's a C-No plus 50, along with publication in our award-winning summer newsletter, The Princess and the Sea, this year's Big Silver Dick winner will also receive 10 signed copies of Mr. Dick Richards' forthcoming book, which has been provisionally titled The End of Poetry. Now, two runners-up will also receive the signed copy of Mr. Dick Richards' poetry collection, of course, 2 commemorative Yacht Club beer cozies, a flotational tote bag shaped a lot like a life vest, but is definitively not one, and other various unused stationery, which will also be signed by Mr. Richards' personal staff. All right, now, before I say a word about what we are looking for, what we are not looking for, permit me, please, to compliment all the performers here this evening on their uniformly excellent readings. You see, I normally don't listen to a word that's spoken in poetry readings. When you get to be my age and income level, there isn't much use for that sort of thing, unfortunately. Add to this my morbid fear of public speaking and of dark, semi-enclosed, parabolically shaped spaces like this one. Well, the prospect of making an announcement, well, let's just say it produces a tightening effect in my sphincter muscle. Now, I say this all to you now because I'm happy to report that tonight has been a most delightful exception. And this is due not only to the truly incredible splendor of our surroundings, but also to the added amplification provided by the caves that allows for all of us to hear everything twice, whether or not we want to. Just kidding about that last part. I wanted to hear all of it. Now, whatever the reason may be, I hope it isn't out of line for me to say, I have simply heard a great deal of potential Silver Dick winners here tonight. So please, everyone should absolutely go ahead and submit, by all means. And I'm not just saying this because I want your entry fees either. Believe you me when I say to you that those fees are not nearly enough to cover even the taxes for just one of my yachts, let alone all 9 of them. Now, in case the members of the audience still wish to know a bit more about what we are looking for as a staff, our editorial committee has composed the following list of 3 basic criteria, and now we are calling these the 3 precious P's for the simple fact that they all start with the letter P. Now, what I'm going to go ahead and do now is share them with you, for your own edification and amusement. Now, criteria number 1, we are looking for what we call personalization in poetry, people. We've all had enough of those poems that muse on the meaning of the cosmos, on the universe, poems that have nothing at all to do with the poet himself. Now, those poems always end up the same way. The poem murders its father, marries its mother, and ends up as a great big transcendental vow. Now, the fact is, we hate Rainer Maria Rilke just as much as you do, always have. Criteria number 2. Much more than the drivel and dirges composed in the manner of a Sir Rainer Maria Rilke, we at Dick Richards Poetry Prize, the Silver Dick, are interested in what we call the private epiphanic moment. Now by this we mean in particular poems with moments that have joy and happiness and ecstasy. We're looking for poems of affirmation and poems of success for poems, hopefully that goes without saying. Poems on low-carb diets, poems of monosyllabic celibacy, poems of nouns and verbs, and poems with no more than, count them, that many adjectives, people. Now the point is, when we read your work, we want to be changed, and we want to change. All the way down, deep down, deep down, to our robust and thoroughly Aryan constitutions. Now to use a nautical example that might be more germane to our subject, nobody here wants a poem that sinks the ship, do they? No. People want poems that pick up a paddle and help to row. Okay, now last but not least, we have criteria number 3. The portentous hush. This is what we like to call poems that are composed and delivered in the style of the Eucharist, in which the divine flesh creeps into the heart's righteous blood. Now, to perfect the technique of the basic portentous hush, you'll all want to attend some local open mics to study for the inflection. Now, you also want to pay attention to our second list, by no means exhaustive, of things we definitively do not want from your work. We do not want poems with violence, assault, sexual imagery of any kind, no hatred, no drugs, no unexplained mysticism, no pains, sores, odors, nausea, aging, sepsis, gravity, the limits of gravity, and no regional dialects poorly rendered or difficult to pronounce like this one. That's just flat out distracting. Thank you very much.